David Chen was the perfect security guard. He knew every corner, heard every sound, noticed every small change. Visitors were amazed by his deep knowledge of art. But David's attention and discipline came from a much darker past, and now those skills were being used to protect art treasures. Welcome to Hidden Warriors. Tell me in the comments what city you're watching from today. And if stories like this deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button. The Metropolitan Museum of Fine Arts stood as one of the city's most prestigious cultural institutions. David Chen had been its head security guard for 20 years, a quiet presence who moved through galleries with practiced efficiency. Visitors loved him. Art students sought his guidance on historical context. Scholars appreciated his encyclopedic knowledge. Families found him patient and engaging, able to make ancient artifacts come alive with captivating stories. But there were aspects of David's security approach that even administrators didn't understand. The way he positioned himself to observe multiple galleries simultaneously. How he could identify potential threats before they acted. The uncanny ability to predict visitor behavior and intercept problems before they developed. His rounds weren't random walks. They followed tactical patterns, ensuring optimal coverage while maintaining sight lines to critical pieces. He memorized not just artwork locations, but specific vulnerabilities of each gallery, blind spots in camera coverage, weaknesses in security systems. David's apartment was modest, but revealing. Art history books shared shelf space with military strategy texts. Classical music CDs sat alongside tactical communications recordings. Museum posters hung next to framed photographs of men in combat gear with faces carefully obscured. What the museum board didn't know was that David Chen's real name was Staff Sergeant David Kim, former member of an elite unit specializing in cultural preservation during armed conflicts. His last deployment had been protecting museums in Iraq from looters and insurgents who targeted cultural heritage as psychological warfare. Staff Sergeant David Kim's unit operated under a classified program, Cultural Heritage Protection Operations. They were part military police, part art historian, part special operations, trained to safeguard humanity's treasures during wartime. The training combined traditional military tactics with art conservation techniques. How to move priceless sculptures without damage while under fire. Methods for protecting fragile paintings from explosions. Techniques for rapid assessment and evacuation of artifacts from combat zones. David had been selected for his art history background and exceptional situational awareness. He could identify a Ming Dynasty vase at 50 meters and calculate tactical implications of its defensive placement. He understood that protecting culture meant maintaining civilization's foundation. The Baghdad mission lasted 8 months. David's unit worked with curators and experts to identify and secure scattered artifacts. They tracked stolen pieces, intercepted smuggling operations, and established secure storage for recovered treasures. But they also defended active museum sites from attacks. Insurgents learned that destroying cultural heritage demoralized populations and attracted international attention. David's unit fought while literally guarding 5,000-year-old sculptures. The operation ended when David's position was overrun during an attack on a restoration facility. He held his position for 6 hours, protecting ancient Mesopotamian tablets, calling defensive coordinates while ensuring priceless documents remained undamaged. He saved the tablets, but took shrapnel wounds, ending his military career. His unit's classification was compromised, making him a target for criminal networks specializing in art theft. The Army offered identity change or permanent classified assignment. David chose a third option, legitimate cultural institution security, where his skills could continue protecting art while maintaining operational readiness. David first noticed reconnaissance on a Tuesday in September. three individuals visiting separately over consecutive days, showing unusual interest in the same high-value pieces: rare Chinese jade sculptures, Renaissance paintings with minimal security, and ancient gold artifacts recently moved to accessible galleries. Their behavior followed classic surveillance patterns David recognized from military training: extended observation without casual movement, photography focused on camera positions rather than artwork, questions about closing procedures and after-hours access. David documented their appearances, tracked movement patterns, noted their questions. Cross-referencing visit times with staffing schedules revealed they were mapping vulnerabilities during shift changes and low staffing periods. The third visitor triggered David's tactical awareness. Male, mid-40s, moving with controlled precision of serious operational training. He spent exactly the right time at each piece while memorizing security details, asked probing questions about valuable unlisted items, and observed guard rotations without appearing to do so. Facial recognition through David's military databases confirmed suspicions. Anton Kozlov, former Russian military, current specialist in high-value art theft. His presence meant professional targeting of specific museum pieces. David analyzed their reconnaissance, identifying likely targets and predicting timeline. Based on their focus and questions, they planned a heist during the upcoming exhibition opening, when security would be divided between crowd control and temporary displays. He had 48 hours to prepare for professionals who specialized in exactly the cultural theft he had spent his career preventing. David faced the choice he'd confronted in Baghdad: abandon position or stay and protect using skills he'd hoped never to need in civilian life. Unlike military situations, he couldn't call for backup or tactical support. He began implementing security measures that appeared routine but created tactical advantages. He volunteered for extra shifts during exhibition opening, ensuring presence when thieves moved. He repositioned portable artifacts for better sight lines and defensive positions. He activated networks from military service for information and coordination with art crime law enforcement. He prepared detailed intelligence briefings about suspected thieves, methods, and targets. But David understood that by the time law enforcement responded to active theft, valuable pieces might be gone. Professional art thieves specialized in rapid extraction before security could organize response. On exhibition opening night, David positioned himself in the Chinese Jade Gallery, the most valuable and portable targets. The museum was crowded with donors, critics, and enthusiasts celebrating new acquisitions. At 10:15 p.m., as the reception wound down and visitors moved toward exits, David spotted movement against the crowd flow. Three figures heading deeper into the museum rather than toward exits. Anton Kozlov and his team had begun their operation. David activated his concealed military-grade communication device, connecting him to federal frequencies. Then he began moving through galleries using interception routes while staying invisible to cameras. For the first time in 20 years, Staff Sergeant David Kim was going operational. What happened next would be classified in official reports, though security footage captured enough to confirm the museum guard had training far beyond standard protocols. David moved through galleries with tactical precision, revealing years of hostile environment experience. The thieves had planned well. They knew schedules, camera blind spots, and quickest routes to targets. But they hadn't planned for a defender who understood their methods better than they understood his capabilities. David intercepted the first thief using techniques that looked like civilian restraint but were military detention protocols. The man went down quietly, secured with zip ties David carried for equipment maintenance. Anton Kozlov reached the jade collection, but found David waiting. Not hiding or calling help, just standing calmly among display cases like a guardian who had found opponents worthy of his attention. "20 years since anyone tried to steal art from under my protection," David said quietly, his voice carrying authority of someone who had defended treasures under dangerous circumstances. Anton smiled. "Museum guard versus professional thief. Call security and step aside." David's response revealed training no civilian course taught. "I am security, and you're about to learn why some art has been protected for centuries." The engagement demonstrated that protecting cultural heritage sometimes required active defense. David used gallery space as tactical advantage, positioning among cases that limited thieves' movement while maintaining operational flexibility. When backup arrived, museum security and federal agents who received David's briefing, they found 3 unconscious suspects secured and ready for transport. Not a single artwork had been damaged during the operation. Official reports credited alert personnel and rapid response for preventing theft. David's role was described as observant guard who detected suspicious activity. But word spread that the Metropolitan's head guard was someone worth respecting. Federal agents consulted him about art crime. Military personnel sought guidance on protection techniques. David continued daily rounds, greeting visitors with patient knowledge. But art students noticed something different: his positioning near valuable works, confidence discussing not just artistic, but historical importance. 6 months later, the museum received military artifact donations for a cultural protection exhibition. David consulted on the display, creating an exhibition about military service and cultural preservation intersection. For the first time in 20 years, Staff Sergeant David Kim's service was publicly acknowledged, though visitors never learned their guide was the same person who had lived that history. Have you ever sensed a museum guard knew more than typical training would provide? Someone whose knowledge went deeper than procedures? Share your experience in the comments. Subscribe to Hidden Warriors for more stories of protectors whose service continues in unexpected places. Some guardians protect nations. Others protect the cultural treasures that define civilization itself.